Welcome, Kris.
Hi, Shilpa. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you. I'm just so fascinated by your focus on what do you call it? The
The chill
cold,
pod.
the chill pod.
Hmm.
So, I always want to learn the story behind a product or service or whatever they are representing. So, I'd like for you to share, maybe back up a little bit your journey,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then we can talk about the cold pod, chill pod.
All good. Cold plunge and chill pod are interchangeable. It's all good. No, I'm happy to share my journey to get here. I think it's entertaining. So, um, starting out my career, I was in nothing related to cold plunging or wellness at all. I was in corporate events and marketing. So I was doing that for a long time, and it had a lot of bonuses that I got to work from home before remote working was a thing and all of this. So I tried to tell myself like that was enough and this was what I wanted to do. But there was always a nagging sense of something else I was curious about. And so it probably, when my second daughter was born, I have two daughters and they're tween and teenish now. And when my second one was born, I really was like, I need to figure out what it is that I want to do. And alongside that, my older daughter started having some mental health challenges. And so, beside her and trying to find some alternative solutions for her anxiety, I really started to recognize my own. And so, I'm in this like parallel path of really diving into supporting her, recognizing my own struggles, and also still having this desire to somehow be an entrepreneur. And so, along that path, I discovered a lot of different practices that I really appreciated to lower my own anxiety and overwhelm, everything from meditation to breath work and yoga and all of these things, which are still amazing. But the challenge was that it took so much to try and help me feel better. It was unsustainable. It was really defeating because I knew all these things that could work, but by no means did I have the time to actually fit them in. And so it was from that place that I started exploring like some different coaching, like doing coaching on the side, different side hustles to try and think, well, maybe I can kind of fill my cup that way. But it was just another thing to add to my already full plate. And so about 2 years ago, a good friend of mine who is an energy healer and just very like-minded and curiosity of being up for trying anything said, Kris, I really think you should try cold plunging. I think that that might be the thing that really helps you. And I was like, no, thank you. That sounds terrible. I don't want to do that. And so I really denied it for a number of months. And she kept being like, I have this sense it's for you. And I was like, I seriously hate cold water. I just don't want to. But one day we were talking and she brought it up again. And I think I just felt like I had nothing to lose that day. And I was like, fine, I'm just going to try it. So I went and secretly bought a horse trough online. I waited for it to arrive and go pick up. I didn't even tell my husband about it because I was like, this might be like a one and done. I might never do this again. And the reality was that it was like everything that I had been waiting for. It was a way to actually reset my body, to flush out all of the stress and the overwhelm I was carrying, and I could actually fit it in my day because it didn't take hours and hours. And it was literally in that trough that I sat there and thought about how could I make this more appealing and approachable for more women, because we all deserve to feel this way. But sitting in a horse trough isn't super great. So, how can I re envision this experience and really come back to its ancient roots in healing and helping our bodies and make it beautiful and modern? And so that's really where the Chill Pod was born.
Now, when you describe this initial device that you used
Mhm.
to experience this, can you share what that is exactly? It sounded like you said horse.
It was a horse trough. So literally what you would see like on a farm where horses or pigs or any other animal would eat out of. Like it's what you picture.
And so your friend was telling you to try the plunge in this container.
That's what she had had at the time. And so it was sort of like the easiest, least expensive way to just give it a try because it was a vessel. It would fit in any, could fit in my backyard. I could pick it up in my car and bring it home. And it was, if I hated it, I was out $100. So it wasn't a big deal. And so, yeah, but it was an eyesore. It was sitting in my backyard and it's not cute. People have a lot of questions when they come over for dinner. What is going on? Why do you have this back here? And the reality was it took a lot of time and energy actually to keep the water cold. And especially as I could handle and tolerate colder water, it became another thing that took a lot of energy to maintain. And so that's where I wanted to make life easy for everybody. And so, again, how could I reimagine it not only to be more beautiful, but also be something that you can just set it and forget it and it takes care of everything for you.
And that first time you did it as a prototype, was it just hose water from the
Yeah.
backyard?
Yeah, it literally was just hose water. I didn't even think to make ice or anything when I started it. So it was in the spring. And so the water was like, it was cold enough. It was cold enough to be like uncomfortable. So it achieved that. And then as I kept doing it, I started taking my kids' storage bins and making ice out of those. And, I had an entire freezer that I had to make that out of. And all of these things, but the cold therapy itself, which is what you're doing when you cold plunge, is it's such a powerful reset for your nervous system. And my hope is to bring more people to the practice because it really can transform how you feel.
That's really interesting. Now, describe the evolution. How long ago was that first prototype,
Yeah.
and where are you now with
Mhm.
design?
Well, yeah, for sure. So I would say the horse trough was by no means a prototype. It was just a way to try it. So I was just buying that and trying it. And then it took, let's see, so that was about 2 years ago. It took about 3 or 4 months before I found a local builder that I thought, okay, maybe we could take this idea of a Rubbermaid trough and actually build something around it to make it look better and just be simple, but it can have that. And so it went through a lot of different phases that actually didn't work. And so, the wood that they used expanded and it didn't perform well. Just things that I couldn't have seen coming. And I would have to pivot and think again and reimagine it. And it took about 6 or 8 months before I got aligned with a product designer, which at the time I didn't even know what a product designer was, but they will take your ideas. I had many. I had all kinds of ideas and concepts of how I wanted this to be. And they basically took that and put it into a design. And so they gave me 3 different shapes to be able to choose from. And the one that I chose was far and away my favorite and doesn't look like anything else out there. And that was really when things started running. So, and all that to say, fast forward to now, basically 2 years later, we'll be launching our first product in June. So it's coming up quickly and we're super excited about it.
Wow, that is so cool. So this is not yet in the market, or it sort of is?
It's out there in the world in that you can sign up to be able to learn when it does get released. So you can go to thechillpod.co and check out the website. And then when you sign up there, we'll let you know when the cart opens and we'll only be sharing that with the folks who've signed up. It'll just be a little bit of, an exclusive offer to be able to come in there and be one of the first to bring them in your homes.
That is really, really fascinating. And would this chill pod be something that would only be in a certain part of the home or backyard? Just
Yeah.
curious about that.
Yeah, great question. The beauty of it is it can fit through any standard doorway. So you can really actually move it if you want to. It's not incredibly heavy. Two people could definitely move it or with a dolly, but you can do it outdoor, you can do it indoor. It really has flexibility as far as where you want to create that space and where you want to practice. And then also changing that by season. You know, we live on the West Coast, weather changes and stuff. Sometimes maybe you want to bring it inside, and then sometimes maybe you want to bring it outside, and you can do either.
And what's a form factor size of it
Mhm.
relative to, say, the space of a shower or something like that?
Yeah, I would say it's a little less than 3 feet side to side, and then it's about 4 feet deep. So it's pretty compact and so doesn't take a ton of space. I don't You'd have to have a pretty good sized shower to fit it in, but you know, if you had a home gym and you wanted to have a plunge in the corner, something like that, or even if you have a really good size primary bathroom, you know, have it sitting instead of or maybe beside a bathtub, things like that.
That's really good to know, in terms of form factor and size.
Yeah.
And can you explain now, because I know from what you've shared that you are aware of some of the more, I would say, mindfulness practices and how it affects our nervous system.
Mhm.
Um, Explain the science that is behind this in terms of how it regulates your nervous system,
Mhm.
how long does it take,
Mhm.
and other details that people may be fascinated by.
Yeah, for sure. So I think a couple things like to start because most people's reaction is much like mine was like, I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound appealing. And that's totally fine because I think once we know a little bit more about it and we might be able to reshift how you're thinking about that instead of just continuing to bump up against that resistance of hating the cold water, imagining what's on the other side. So with that said, cold therapy is anything from 40 to 60 degrees. So, in the social media ethers, you always see people with like ice blocks all around them and all of that. And the reality is that doesn't have to be. If that's your practice, great. It definitely does not have to be. When I first did it, my water was probably 60, if not a little bit over that, and I could still feel the benefits. So you've got the temperature that you can play with, and you've also got the time that you can play with. So if you're not somebody who's done it before, maybe you start at the high end of the temperature and do it for 20 seconds. 15 seconds. Any type of exposure counts. And I think the more we can kind of appreciate or kind of approach it with a playfulness aspect of how much time do I want to be in there? How cold or not do I want the water? And really listening to your body's cues of what's working, it becomes a totally different practice. But to answer your question of why it works for resetting your nervous system, so your audience probably knows, but I'll just say it anyways, that your body has two different functions for your nervous system. You've got your really calm rest and digest, you're relaxed, you're good. There's also fight or flight, where your body is literally preparing to get you out of danger. So the thing with cold therapy is that you are intentionally putting your body in a state of fight or flight. But why it works is it's for a finite amount of time. It's for a really short period, and your body's going in, literally dipping in it, and then coming back out. And when your body has to learn how to come back out of that fight or flight and to know that it's safe because you're doing it on a repeated basis, you are training your body to be more resilient. You're training your body to know how to process stress or other things that put us in fight or flight. That one moment in the day actually transforms how you respond to other situations that would put you in that same state all throughout your day. So that's why you literally will walk out of there and feel reset because your body was. It was like a little reset button. Your energy will feel different and you're going to respond and literally move through your day differently than you would have before.
Oh, I have so many questions. This is like
Fire away.
I remember one of my friends, she is a very gifted I would say acupuncture,
Mhm.
massage therapist. And
Mhm.
during COVID, she would do some of these cold therapies and talk
Yeah.
about her how her immunity had gone
Yep.
stronger.
Yep.
So
It's true.
yeah,
Yeah, it's true. No, it builds your immunity because your body is constantly, it's being stressed in a positive way. And then again, you're coming out of it. So your body knows when it receives another one of those stressors, whether it's like being exposed to a cold or whatever it is, you just have a higher tolerance to fight against it.
yeah. Well, speaking of tolerance, though, does your tolerance then increase as shifting your ability to feel the benefits?
I do think that they shift and change. I mean, I can only speak to my personal experience, right? But I think the things that the benefits you do experience, I believe, shift over time. Like when I first started doing it, I really felt the dopamine spike that would come from it. I literally just felt happier. I felt more joyful. I was smiling more. I just felt good. And that was different than how I was feeling when I first got in the water. So that was something that happened then. I feel like my body's pretty attuned to that. And more so, I notice if I'm away for a week and I can't do it, I notice that I crave that. And then for me, it's the mental benefits of it. You know, we all know that physically it's really positive, but I really feel like the mental benefits are so powerful. And the more that we can understand how it can really like clear out all the brain fog, clear out the overwhelm, and just give us a good focus and like clear our mind literally, we're in such a better place. And so that's what I continue to notice. The days that I don't do it every day, and I'm fine with that. I think that's great. We have to listen to our bodies and what they're kind of guiding us towards. But that focus, especially, I really just notice and appreciate every time.
And something you mentioned at the very beginning of the conversation, and I can totally relate,
Mm.
it's the amount of time we need to dedicate to these different practices
Mhm.
becomes one of those things. It's a non-negotiable ritual that often does require so much of time management.
Yeah.
And I have my own. I have like I need to meditate morning and night. There's other
Yeah.
practices that I try to integrate. But with
Mhm.
each time, I feel like the sense of anxiety, the very thing you're trying to fight,
Right.
because I'm like, oh gosh, I've got a minute left before I have to finish my meditation.
Yep. I know. I think that's so true. And that's why it was such a huge shift and a game changer for me was instead of like, oh, I only have 2 minutes to devote to this, it was like 2 minutes is literally enough. 2 minutes is enough to come back to myself and have the feeling that I want to go into the day. And then the other things I do are bonuses. I'm good with that. Like, I love to meditate in the morning and the evening too. Those are things that I love. But sometimes I'm like, well, you know what? I'm gonna do it for like 5 minutes today. And today I have 20, like whatever that is. It gives me a lot more perspective on being less rigid in what that has to look like and just giving myself more room to make it fit my needs in that moment.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because I'm constantly integrating and reevaluating different modalities. Like,
Yeah.
a couple of years ago or 3 years ago, I started doing a little bit of tapping.
Hmm.
And once in a while, I'll like almost instinctively be like, okay, I need to do
Yeah,
quick tapping now. Or
totally.
the breath work, like the box breathing. But
Yep.
this one, it could be yet one more modality that someone
Hmm.
can integrate. And like you started, perhaps, did you just start in a shower and then say, I will take this on a grander scale now?
That's a good question. The shower is always like the go-to, right? Because we all have that as an option. It's there and easy. I did it and I hated it so much that I was like, I have to find a different way to try this. So for me, what I realized looking back, the reason I disliked it as much as I did was like my warm shower is like a ritual to me. That is like a time where I have to myself, it feels warm and cozy and it's everything I love. And to disrupt that and end it with something I disliked, I was like, I'm not worth it. Like, I don't like this. So, but I think it's a great place to start. And I say my experience only because if you go into it and are like, I absolutely hate this, there's other ways to go about it. And there are other ways that people can just play around with it too, is even just submerging a body part. So you could do like a little cold bowl of water, you could put ice in it and submerge your hands or your feet and do that for 15 seconds, 30 seconds. You can play with that and then notice how you feel. And it might be enough to just start the process of getting yourself acclimated to the practice.
Yeah, I love that, just sort of micro adjustments and
Mhm.
integrating it. Um, and you also mentioned it helped your daughter. Is that correct?
I don't think she is hit or miss on whether she likes to do it. She's funny. It's one of those things where she's not, if I suggest it, it's for sure a no. She will not do it. And then my husband, if he suggests it, she usually will. So I'm like, you do you. It's fine. It's always there if you want it. But I don't pressure it. I think it does definitely help her when she is open to it. But I kind of leave that loose of like, okay, if you want to do it, you can. And then when she does it, she goes in for like 3 times as long as I do. I'm like, geez, Louise.
Yeah. Well, that's funny. On a side note, that happens with my son. Like,
Yeah,
whatever, if mom is doing or advocating for it, there's a
there's
resistance.
like a wall. Yeah.
Now, when you started, how long did you do it? I think you mentioned a couple of minutes, maybe. And now, where are you at?
Yeah, so when I started, the water was way warmer than it is now. So it was I'm gonna guess in about the 60s. And I remember the first time I did it, I put on music at the time and I made it to 7 minutes. I did not expect to make it to 7 minutes for the record. And so then as I brought the temperature down, I could see once I got to 50, that dramatically changed for me personally. Like once I hit that temperature, then it was like, okay, I can do this for about 3 minutes. But then I had to listen to my body's cues. Some days it was like my feet just got too cold, and I was like, nope, we're out. We're not, at a normal time I would do this for, but my body is saying enough. We've hit our benefits. We're good. And now my usual is I typically do about mid 40s for about 2.5 minutes. And that's kind of my go-to. If I go lower than that, it really takes my body a long time to come back to temperature, which isn't a bad thing, but I feel like it's an extra tax I don't always need on my system. So for me, that kind of feels like my sweet spot, mid 40s for a couple of minutes, and that feels great.
And when you first started with the initial device that you had created,
Mhm.
versus now, has that, uh, I'm for lack of a better expression, the evolution of the design
Yeah, yeah.
shifted how comfortable you feel in being in it, plunged in it.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's completely different. I mean, I think you can probably picture what a horse trough looks like, right? Like your legs are stretched out, you're kind of floating in there, that kind of thing. And in the product that I designed, a big part of it was like right now I'm sitting with my legs crossed, crisscross applesauce. And so that's just how I inherently sit. And I think a lot of people do. So I made this, it literally has a seat inside of it to hold your body, to really lean into that human experience of cold plunging so that it's not just about the water. It's also keeping your body safe and calm as best you can in a situation that's uncomfortable. So it's much more comfortable in the chill
And
pod.
you have to get it in it from top down, or how does that
It
work?
has a couple of stairs. So you walk up and then you put your leg over, and the top stair is equal to the seat that you would go on. So you just walk onto there and then put yourself in.
Wonderful. Um, in addition to, so you also mentioned create improving the resilience of your body and mind. And
Mhm.
given the theme overall for my season for my podcast is energy awareness, how
Mhm.
have you noticed over the years or over time
Mhm.
um, your awareness of how you're feeling
Mhm.
and where you want to be and how long it takes you to get there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's like one of the untalked about reasons that I have created the plunge practice, honestly, because when you're in there and you're very cold, you're literally brought into the present moment, no different than you would be in like a deep meditation. Different, but similar, right? Like you're right in the present moment and you are literally given only the opportunity to really interact with your own intuition in that moment. And that is not something that came super intuitive to me before. I would just push ahead. I would move ahead and just try and keep doing. And when I'm in there, it literally strengthened that muscle of listening to what my body was telling me and just responding to it, honestly, just honoring that and listening to it. And then as I started doing that, that probably took about, I don't know, probably 3 to 6 months. And I was like, oh, that's the thing I love so much is I'm literally with myself and then I'm honoring my needs and I'm taking that out into the world from there. And so then in all the other cases, it's imperfect, but I definitely listen to myself more than I would have ever before because I have almost that training per se of having had that experience, knowing what that's like, knowing what my voice sounds like, all of that to be able to take it out into the world.
And do you also see, I mean, you've already expressed it as much, but the physical benefits in terms of relaxation, like
Mhm.
physiologically, like
Yeah.
you're mentioning taking a hot shower, that's like one of my things, just kind of
Hmm.
chilling in the shower for a few minutes,
Yeah.
back relax. Where in your body have you
Hmm.
felt it on a more physiological level?
Yeah. I think a couple different ways. So, anytime that I have like sore muscles, if I've done like a really good workout, the next morning It's it's unbelievable. It will like melt away your soreness. And then actually I felt like that this morning. I lifted weights yesterday and I was like, okay, I'm kind of sore. I did that and I actually haven't thought about it ever since. And so there's that. If you struggle with inflammation, it's definitely a great one to flush that out of your system. There's a lot of ways that it really does support your physical well-being. It helps you manage your body's temperature. So, just better regulation that way. You mentioned relaxation, and I find for me personally, I get the energy boost from it more so. So, like some people like to do it right before bed because they relax and they just go right into sleep. For me, it definitely revs up my body. So I'm ready to go, and I definitely am doing it before bed backfires for me. So, but doing it in the morning is amazing because I'm like, it's just reinforcing it's morning. We've got the day ahead. Here you go. You get a little energy boost and away you go.
That's a really good way to, kind of wrap up the conversation because I struggle with sleep and I was wondering, well, does
Mhm.
that help with sleep? It sounds like it's like if there are bookends, it's the cold shower in the morning versus the warm at night.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I think that would be your best place to start is however you want to experience cold in the morning and just trust that that helps regulate your body to help sleep better at night. Just because it's not happening side by side, it can absolutely impact your sleep. I know that it has for me.
That's wonderful. So over time, your sleep patterns have improved.
Mhm.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Now, where can people, and I'll have it in the show notes, but where can
Sure.
people find out more? And you mentioned there's a soon to be released
Yeah.
product.
Yeah, so you can head over to thechillpod.co and that will show you pictures of what it looks like. It'll give you all the details about it and you can sign up to learn more. You'll be the first ones to hear when it's released. And then if you want to follow along on social, you can either check out on Instagram, thechillpod.co again. That's our handle there, and you can learn all about it, have some fun along the way. And then if you want to hear more of my founder journey and my day-to-day experience, it's pretty it's pretty much that. I'm at Kris Rice Wellness, and you can check that out as well.
That is exciting. And I will be following all of your journey. And on a more business entrepreneurial level, congratulations, because I think it's so exciting as women entrepreneurs. I've been in corporate space for most of my career, and I know I always had that nagging desire to
Mhm.
do more as an
Mhm.
entrepreneur while balancing it with something that's along the lines of mindfulness. So you've really arrived, and I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. That's so kind. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm happy for you, and I will actually be following along as well. So,
Awesome. Well, I look forward
uh,
to
well,
it.
thank you, Chris. I appreciate you, and maybe in the future, like a year from now, you can come back and share the journey as
I
a
would love to.
entrepreneur.
I would love to. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you.